Hi everyone, my name is Jen and this is B Sets of Plants, where we talk things houseplant and home design. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be making another video for my series, the Houseplant Alphabet. So this is a series where I introduce you to some of my houseplants and I talk about my experience growing them and what conditions they are currently being grown in my house. Just a reminder once again, this by no means is supposed to be a definitive care guide about a plant. I am not an expert at all, just someone who owns a lot of plants. Alright, so let's get into it. B is for Philodendron Brandtianum or Philodendron Brandy. You might have seen me unbox this plant in a video last month where I talked about some of my favorite houseplants. You might also remember that I said that this is not going to be my plant, but in fact this is going to be a plant that I'm giving away to one of you. I'm going to be hosting this giveaway exclusively on Instagram, so make sure you go down to the description box, read all the rules, and head over to my Instagram to enter to win this Philodendron Brandy. Alright, so now that I've gotten you by holding this beautiful, spectacular specimen, I'm going to come clean that this is not how my Philodendron Brandy looks. This is how my Philodendron Brandy looks. It looks super small and tiny and a little bit sad in comparison, and that's because I've actually struggled a lot with growing this plant. Okay, so I was growing this plant just like how I grow all of my other philodendrons, except for it was putting out the teeniest, tiniest leaves, like baby, sad, pathetic leaves. So I actually ended up chopping it. So there's actually two different stems in this pot, and the first stem does not look like it has put out a new growth point at all, so it might have activated a node that is like closer down to the base, and it might be putting out a new growth point there instead of just going one down. But this second plant that's in the pot has put out two different growth points, so there's one right there. I'm sorry if that's not focusing. My camera lens is currently broken from when I dropped it. I did order a new camera lens, which I'm not very happy about, but I did order a new camera lens. So I will be getting that in the mail very soon. But yeah, it's put out in two new growth points. There's also one down there, so it's activated two different nodes right there. And it so far looks like this new leaf is going to be a much better in size in comparison to what it was putting out before. So that proves to me that the new environment that I have it in is working better for it. So what I've learned about this plant is that it does not like to be dried out all of the way. So with a lot of my other philodendrons, like the Houseplant or even like the Milano, I dry my plants out all the way before I water it, and I have it in a super airy mix that's 50% orchid bark. So the mixture I do have it in is 50% orchid bark, and then the rest is coco coir, pumice, and horticultural charcoal. However, I no longer let this plant dry out 100% of the way. I do keep it a little bit more on the moist side in comparison to a lot of my other houseplants. This plant also likes more humidity, so I used to have this plant on my plant shelf, which means it was only getting ambient humidity, which is for me around 50% or so. And although it was getting great lighting because it was under grow lights on my plant shelf, it was still putting out such small leaves that I decided to move it to where my humidifier is. So now it's getting mostly just east-facing light from a very shaded window. So it's an east-facing window, but it's definitely not getting as much light as you would normally imagine an east-facing window would get, but it is closer to a humidifier and it does look happier there. So if you know me, you will know that I am terrible about filling up my humidifier. It's only on about like less than 50% of the time. And I don't think that humidity is the, you know, end all be all of plant care. And so if you keep a plant well watered, the humidity is not as important. So if I was still letting this plant dry out all the way like I am with a lot of my other philodendrons, then I would need the humidity for this plant to be much, much higher, more in like the 70s or so. But because I am keeping this plant well watered now, it doesn't need to rely on humidity as much as it would otherwise. So for the most part, it does just get ambient humidity, like 50% or so, and then half the time it gets, you know, obviously more. I have my humidifier set to 70%. So yeah. So in terms of propagation, this is a very easy plant to propagate in my experience. You would just need to cut it in the internodes. So what a node looks like is where the petiole of a leaf comes out. So that's where the node is. You just cut in between two leaves. The sections that I cut off, although, you know, I am not necessarily interested in keeping them, I did plop it in water just to see what would happen, and it rooted up immediately with no issues at all. So these are a very, very easy plant to propagate. So I actually often find that the Philodendron Brandi is sold as a hanging plant, like a trailing plant. However, it can absolutely be totemed to climb up like a moss pole or a stick or whatever. I do expect the leaves to get bigger in size if it's able to latch onto something and climb, but you know, mine looks like this right now, so I'll have to get back on you definitively about that later on. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. If you're interested in winning this beautiful Philodendron Brandy, make sure you head over to my Instagram right now to find out how to enter. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!